Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, Agent Collective. My name is Dan Rochon, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to teach to sell. Excuse me while my phone is disrupting me. I want to ask you if you remember, and I want everybody to think back right now to think about your favorite teacher. Not the one that gave you the easy grades, the one that made you feel like you mattered. Think back right now. The one who believed in you before you believed in yourself. For me, that was Mr. Casper. Remember, it was the sixth grade, and my parents had just gotten divorced, and I felt invisible. I was abandoned. Mr. K pulled me aside. He looked at me. I remember him looking in my eyes. He says, Dan, you matter. I believe in you. In that moment, it did something for me. It showed me that the right words delivered with care could change someone's life. That was my life. So I didn't know it then, but that moment would shape the way that I lead, the way that I coach, and the way that I sell, and also eventually the way that I live. Years later, many years later, I got my real estate license and I thought, boom, I'm ready to go. I'm going to go and make a fortune. I'm ready. I've got the drive. Let's go do this. And guess what? 6 months in, zero closings. I wasn't just broke. I was freaking afraid. I didn't know what to do. I was waiting tables before I got my real estate license, and I thought, man, I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to go sell, I'm going to have to go wait tables again. And the more I try to sell to people, the more that they pulled away. People told me to smile more. Apparently, I didn't smile. Use the script, be confident. But the truth is, as you might imagine, businesses, they live and die on sales. And if you really want to sell, you have to understand it's not about you. It's about the other person and the way that they see the world. That was the moment that it started to click for me. But still, I resisted. I thought, I just need to hustle harder, work harder, make more calls, say it better, push more. And that was my belief when I first started. But no matter how many calls I made, no matter how loud I got, nobody was listening because I was showing up to perform and not to connect. And then I remembered Mr. Casper, Mr. K. I remember that sixth grade teacher. And I realized he didn't try to impress upon me. He didn't try to be able to convince me. He just simply showed up. He cared. He gave me the support, the leadership, the guidance. And he gave me something that I didn't have within myself. And that was belief. And that's when I made a shift. That's when I stopped chasing the leads. That's when I stopped begging, please, please, please come and hire me. And I stopped chasing the yes. And I started teaching people how to find their own yes. 2 months later, it was my first deal. But the real win that came 10 months after that I got my license was 18 months after I started selling. I was able to buy the brokerage that I worked for. Not because I became slick, but because I finally understood that sales is not about convincing. It's not about closing people. It's about helping them to open up to themselves. And that's what became the foundation of Teach to Sell. Let me give you a stat that you're not going to forget. And you've probably heard this before. 87% of all real estate agents leave the business within 5 years. Let that sink in. Almost 9 out of 10 are not going to succeed. They're going to quit. Why? Because they were not trained to sell. Or rather, because they were trained to sell, but they were not taught how to lead. They given scripts, closing lines, rebuttals, but no one teaches them how to be present, how to gain rapport and connection, how to listen, how to influence using integrity. Now, let me tell you about my friend Dave. Excuse me for my voice. Dave was not an agent. Dave was my best friend. And he was a fellow alcoholic in recovery. And Dave was trying, but he was in pain. In fact, Dave was the one that got me into recovery 20 years ago when I was an addict that I was drinking every single day, 12 beers, 2 bottles of wine. I'll never forget, Dave called me during a dark time. And I did what I knew how to do. I didn't coach him. I didn't preach. I listened. I asked. I held space because Dave was struggling. And I'll never forget that phone call because when we hung up, he thanked me. Um, he said he felt seen. Unfortunately, not long after that phone call, Dave relapsed, and this time it was for real. I'll never forget. I was getting on a plane going to a conference in Florida, and he was managing my rehabs. And one of the rehabs was like nothing was happening to it, and I was wondering like what the heck's going on to this. I was going to the airport. I stopped at the rehab. Nothing was happening. I get to the airport. I called him. Can't get him. Called him again when I got to Florida. Finally got his wife on the phone. Well, Dave, he died. And that moment, it broke me because I realized that even when you show up perfectly, even when you say the right words, which I believe that I said to Dave, you can't always control the outcome. Now, in real estate sales, it's not always about life and death, but it doesn't mean that that my presence didn't matter because Dave reminded me that leadership is not about control, it's about contribution. And that's what I'm here to demonstrate to you today. I'm here to demonstrate to you that how you can contribute. It's about teaching people how to think, even when you're not sure if they're ready. And that is the heart of Teach to Sell. It's not about pitching. It's not about pretending. It's just about being present. It's not about pressure. It's just about teaching and guiding. And here's how it works. Here's what I want you to do in your real estate sales business. Number one, I want you to clarify before you close because confusion kills commitment and clarity creates conversion. Number two, I want you to teach before you tell. Stop trying to win the sale. Start helping them understand their own needs first. And number three, I want you to lead instead of chasing because chasing is going to erode your trust while guiding builds it. When I trace it all back, it wasn't a marketing course, it wasn't a CRM, it wasn't some shiny object that allowed for me to have no broke months since 2008, that allowed for me to be able to buy the brokerage I worked for 18 months after I got my license. It was a teacher named Mr. Casper and a friend named Dave, because both taught me that true leadership means showing up with empathy and clarity, even when you don't know how your story is going to end. So before your next conversation with a client, a colleague, a loved one, ask yourself, am I here to convince them or am I here to clarify? Because when you choose clarity, people will follow you. Your trust will grow. and the light that you change, it might just be your own. Today, we're talking about teach to sell. Welcome, Debbie. Thank you for being here as well. And we're talking about understanding how, when you teach, you're able to sell. And that's the epitome of what we're talking about today. Because most agents, what they do is they beg, they plead, they ask, please give me business, please give me business, please give me business. And then they wonder, why the heck am I not getting any business? I was talking to a lady yesterday who's been in the business for 30 years. She's in Canada. And she called me to potentially hire me as her coach. And she said to me, she's like, Dan, all these systems, they all suck. I'm just looking for something that actually generates business. Now, fortunately for me, I let my inside voice stay on the inside. Okay, because the reality of it is that all the lead generation systems out there, they all suck. Every single one of them. All the leads out there, they all suck. Every single one of them. Except for the ones that don't. As a real estate agent, you've got to understand that. You've got to be able to embrace that and recognize that. Because when you recognize that there is no magic, magic elixir, there is no magic pill. Once you recognize that, then you'll start to recognize to say, okay, if there's not a magic ticket to my success, then what do I do? My way that I'm going to ask for you to consider is that you teach to sell. And what teach to sell is, it's about showing somebody else how to think so that they can get what they want, which will then let them feel inspired to follow your lead. Most people believe that sales is about convincing. It's not. And if you're not getting the results that you intend to get right now, you're probably doing it wrong. Sales is about persuasion. Persuasion is about guiding another human being so that they can get what they want. A buyer or a seller, what do they want? Two different things, by the way. A buyer, what does a buyer want? When I ask that in a class, what I often get is a buyer wants my guidance. A buyer wants my education. A buyer wants my experience. And I'm going to say, no, that's not what a buyer wants. I'm going to say that's what a buyer needs. But what does a buyer want? A buyer wants a home. What does a seller want? A seller wants money and not a lot of hassle. So when you recognize this, a buyer and a seller, what do they want? A buyer, what do they want? They want a home. A seller, what do they want? They want a lot of money and no hassle. Boom, it's easy. Now I know what they want. Now I can then teach them so that they can then understand what is it that they need. Because that buyer who just wants a home is going to devalue you when they don't understand how you're going to be able to navigate them through the process of all the inspections, of all of the negotiations, of the timelines, of the different parties involved in the transaction, of all the different, logistics of a transaction that you are there to guide them through. When the buyer understands that because you're guiding them, then they'll be able to appreciate you. Let me give you an example. When I'm consulting with a buyer before they hire me, one of the consultations that I have with them is about the home inspection. Has anybody here besides me ever had a home inspection sort of almost blow up a deal where the buyer comes and they want all kinds of craziness? Has that ever happened to anybody? Well, here's the deal. Before you get to that point and be reactive, you can be proactive and consult and teach the sell. You can have a conversation up front that goes something like, Mr. Seller, I'm sorry, excuse me, Mr. Buyer, Miss Buyer. When the two of you write an offer that gets accepted and you go home tonight, that night, I could tell you that you're going to be in a position that you're going to be a little bit uneasy. You're going to be a little bit anxious. You're going to be a little bit in a position that you're going to be curious about, did I make the right decision? You're probably even going to have buyer's remorse. The next morning, you're going to wake up and you're going to be kicking yourself. Your sister's going to send you a text. Your sister's going to say you're a freaking idiot to buy when the interest rates are at 7%. What are you thinking? And then 3 days later, guess what's going to happen? You're going to do a home inspection. That home inspection, the home inspector is going to come with, boom, 100 things wrong with that home. Remember, you're going to have buyer's remorse. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be upset. You're going to be maybe agitated. You're going to be second guessing yourself. And now there's 100 things wrong with this home. Well, Mr. Buyer, this is what you should expect. And what great buyers like you do is they recognize that that is just a part of the process. And they don't blow up the deal because there's no home that doesn't have 100 things wrong with it. I've never seen a home inspection ever in the thousands of transactions that I've overseen or been a part of. I have never once seen a home inspection come back to say that the home is perfect. It has never happened, and it never will. And so, Mr. Buyer, Ms. Buyer, this is what you have to expect as we go through the process. See, what I just taught you was how to use teach to sell in the consultation process of a buyer. Because when you teach them that up front, two things are going to happen. Number one is that they're going to trust you. Hi, Terry. I didn't know that was you there. Number two is that when they do trust you, they're going to follow your lead. And if one of those things blows up, you're going to be fine. Because let's say option A is you don't have that conversation with them. And you don't have that conversation with them, and they come back and the home inspector says, hey, Bob, here's 100 things wrong with this home. Option B, you do have that conversation with them. And the home inspector comes back and says, hey, Bob, here's 100 things wrong with this home. In either case, the same thing happened. But the difference is, in option A, how do they feel about you? Versus option B. And the option that you don't consult them versus the option that you do consult them. Which one are they going to feel better about? What do you think? They're going to feel better about the one when you did consult them because they said to you, Bob, this is what's going to happen. Thash, thanks for joining us. Thash from Toronto, Canada.
Yes. Yeah, I just joined. I'm still at work, so I just joined from my phone. I'm just listening.
Good man. Thank you for listening. So that is how you teach to sell. You teach to sell in a way where you're preventing the predictable problems of the transaction. You teach to sell where you're taking any single thing that has ever happened to you in a transaction ever before that has fallen apart. Man, is that you put that into your consultation moving forward. I recommend that you communicate with them up front about all those things that may happen before they happen. Because when you do so, then you're going to position yourself such that you'll be able to be the expert rather than the idiot. That's the reality of it. You go and you tell them before another example for a buyer, for example, when you're getting hired, Mr. Buyer, about a week or two before closing, the underwriter, they're going to come, they're going to ask you for all kinds of paperwork and documents, all of which you've probably already shared. And this may be frustrating, but when they do so, just understand it's just a natural part of the process. This is just what happens. And I'm going to ask that you just provide the information to them. Because when you do so, it's just a natural part of the transaction. Now, if you think you talk to this buyer about that before they get to that point in the process, and then the lender asks them for all those documents, you look like a genius because you prepped them for that to happen. Versus you don't tell them, they get frustrated and they're saying, Debbie, why didn't you tell me this? Terry, why didn't you tell me this? Thash, why didn't you tell me this? This is so frustrating. I can't believe this is happening. Has anybody ever had a client share something like that with them about their frustration? And you know that the frustration had nothing to do with you, it had to do with another party, a lender, a title company, a home inspector, the buyer or the seller on the other end of the transaction, the agent on the other end of the transaction. But guess what? It comes back to you. So I'm going to finish this up here. I'm going to ask for you to share some of your ahas if you could here in just a few moments. But as I finish this up, what I want you to consider is, what is teach to sell? And teach to sell is to be able to teach another person how to think so that they can get what they want, which will then leave them feel inspired to be able to follow your lead. I wrote a book, Teach to Sell. It's going to be published in February of 2026 by Simon & Schuster. I'm very grateful that I've got one of the top 5 publishing companies to pick up the book. If you want to grab your copy of it, you can visit www.teachtosellbook.com. That's teachtosellbook.com. And if you order in the pre-sale, there's all kinds of fun goodies, and there's an electronic swag bag that I'm going to give you for being one of the first comers. My mission, my goal is to sell 40,000 copies of that book in the first 2 weeks after it's published, so that I sell 1 million copies in 2026. So if you would love to join me and one of the 40,000 of the early adopters, I would love for you to grab your copy of the book, and you'll get all kinds of cool swag with it. And the book is at a very reasonable cost, and you'll get the cheapest price when you purchase it today. What are your ahas about Teach to Sell, and how will you use this in your business? I'd love to hear your feedback. We got 3 minutes left. Who'd like to share about your ahas, your thoughts, your feelings about today's conversation? Thank you for being here. Go ahead, Terry. You're on mute. Thank you. Oh, you're still on mute. Debbie, it's too early in California. I see you're eating your breakfast. Me, I've already done my lead generation today. Terry's fumbling around with her. There you go, Terry.
I am. I hate doing Zooms on my phone. Okay, so my big aha, which I revisit probably twice a month, is the fact that there are a lot of shiny objects out there for lead generation. And the truth be told, most of them are just gimmicks. There are some out there, and yet most of what they're teaching is what we do every day. We teach to sell, and that you have to be honest with your clients. You have to let them know, just like writing a term paper in high school. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them, so that all the way through it's a smooth process for them, which ultimately is a very smooth process for you.
I love it, Terry. Thank you for sharing that with us today. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them. Tell them, or you know what I said. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them, and then tell them what you told them. I think that's
exactly
what you said.
It is.
What other ahas do we have? We got about 30 seconds left. Thoughts, feelings, observations. How will you use this in your business? Remember, when you're the expert, people will follow you. How will they know that you're the expert? When you guide them, when you display your knowledge, when you take charge, and when you teach to sell. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. I'm going to last invite you to visit www.teachtosellbook.com. That's teachtosellbook.com. Grab your early copy. And if I can be a resource to anybody here, my name is Dan Rochon. You can probably find me relatively easily. Reach out to me, and I'd be happy to be able to be a resource to you. God bless you. Have the best day of your life. Be grateful. Make good choices. Go help somebody. And God bless you. I'll see you guys.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.